Worldschooling. Have you ever heard about it? What is it and how do you do it?
Come join us in today's episode as we talk about how we found worldschooling and how it has affected our lives.
How it's changed our lives.
Absolutely.
Hi everyone. Welcome to Learning Brave. I'm Skylar.
I'm Ross.
Today we are talking about worldschooling. So, I don't know if you've heard about this before, but it's a wonderful new movement that's kind of growing around the world. So it's sort of like homeschooling, sort of like unschooling, sort of like schooling, but in the world.
It's a bit of an education revolution.
Oh, well, I tried to start a revolution but didn't print enough pamphlets.
It is. So we had never heard the term until about a couple of years ago. And the way we came across the idea of worldschooling, I was reading a blog and we were trying to imagine what travel could be like for our family. We were having trouble with that because we have lots of crazy kids and we were just like...
Is it even possible?
And of course we didn't want it to look like a non-stop holiday. We wanted it to be different and meaningful. And so I came across this blog post that talked about this family. They were an Australian family who left their home country and went full-time traveling, and they talked about the way that they educated their kids. They talked about their children learning stone carving in India and cooking classes in Cambodia and World War II history in Europe, and they talked about this amazing idea of learning at the source and hands-on learning, and I was just like lit on fire by this amazing idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I certainly didn't grow up with, and neither did you. We attended a pretty stock standard education in our own countries, and one of the funnest things that I remember doing during my education was when we got to get out of the classroom.
Like
and
a field trip.
Yeah, go and experience fun things.
Yeah.
And so I guess this was like, we can do that all the time? You kidding me? Boom.
And instead of just learning from books, actually seeing places for yourself and hearing stories with your own ears and just really engaging with the world and learning in that way. And so we were just like, whoa, is that even possible?
We're a little bit like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Whoa, yeah, dude.
So we were like, that sounds amazing. And then, is it even possible for us? That sounds like something only, super rich people could do. Or, I don't know, maybe not for really imperfect, crazy families who, their kids squabble all the time and we have trouble just driving in a car.
Mm. But one thing that I've noticed though as we've travelled, because in a previous episode we talked about how we've sort of been on the spectrum of having some money, having kind of some money and having no money. I actually have experienced that the times where we have to live like the locals is when we have the biggest worldschooling experience, because you actually get to experience that culture, and that alone for me I think is one of the biggest worldschooling experiences that I've experienced with my children over the last 4 years.
So now we identify ourselves as world-schoolers. So we have taken this concept and embraced it completely. And even though we've had different kind of travel going on in our lives, sometimes we're still for a while, sometimes we're on the go, we still are always world-schoolers. So for us, world-schooling is really, above anything else, it's a mindset.
It is.
So it's this concept that you learn everything you can, wherever you can, in as much of a hands-on way as possible, and you learn as much as you can about the big wide world. And if possible, travel.
It's really about the experience.
Yeah,
it's like learning, not just having experiences during travel, but making those experiences the pivotal focus of the education of your children. So let's not go to a country and have this great experience and say, wow, that was great, let's take some photos and that's it. No, let's actually dig deeper into that experience and say, what does it mean? What can we learn about this thing? And actually make that like this amazing student-led presentation, allow them to really dig deep into that experience and come away with some amazing life lessons and then specific lessons about culture or history or anything.
Yeah, it's this Like, it's like, how in our lives can we learn as much as possible no matter where we are? And let's go many places. So I fell in love with the idea of exposing my kids to so many different ways of life and opportunities and ideas of what they could do for their life. To me, that's what world schooling is.
I guess one of the things that really led us on this journey too was understanding our own experience. Skylar and I had an opportunity young, like just after we were married, to go and live in different countries as we studied abroad through university, to live in Syria and to live in other parts of the Middle East and to visit and live in Japan. And that was so amazing because we recognized the immense amount of learning that happens by living in another country immersed in that culture. Not only did I go there and enjoy it, I was like, I want to know all about this country. I want to know about its history. I want to know, what are those things that we're seeing today? Well, we're in this mosque here. What is a mosque? What does the Islamic religion mean to us? I'm in Japan. What is Buddhism? All these different things that come because you're in that country and you're learning. And we're like, let's do it with our kids.
And the focus of the travel becomes to learn and to grow in experience instead of just kind of like surface fun.
Yeah.
So if you were on a constant holiday, it would not be affordable. But world schooling is different. World schooling for us, when we took it on the road and we took the concept of learning at source and in a hands-on way, we made it life. So we lived in different places. So the costs were the same or sometimes cheaper than at home. And then we were able to learn all about the world. Like you don't just learn about the country, you learn about people and how this all fits together. And the kids were learning maths by currency conversion, or they were learning
lots of
languages,
lots of history,
cultural appreciation, cultural differences. They were learning how to interact with different people who may not be able to communicate as clearly as they would have liked. They learned all these things that we basically just put ourselves out of our comfort zones all the time, and then it's like we basically just experimented on ourselves. Yeah,
and it's been awesome because I think for me, one of the biggest things in having our children come with us on this journey for the last 4 years is that their learning has been more holistic. There's been some elements of it that's quite academic that we could have done in a school, but then there's a whole plethora of other things that they learnt that you would never learn in a school. And I love that it's about life in general, not just academic subjects that they've been able to learn through world schooling. And you get to choose that. You get to choose. As Skylar said, we were living in a place. We wouldn't go out every single day and make every single day some sort of a massive experience. We'd be like, okay, this week let's pick 1 or 2 things that we might go and visit and have a proper world schooling experience.
And sometimes it failed. Like when we went to the Eagle's Nest, we're going to have this great learning experience, and it just was this complete flop of a day. But we learn other things then. We learn how to get along when we're struggling, and we learn, like all these kind of like Ross was saying, holistic life lessons. So there's different ways that you can be a world schooler. Okay, you can, like we did, we adopted it so wholeheartedly that we became full-time travelers, and we just loved this idea. We were just like, we'll see how it goes, and we'll just launch out, and we want to dive in and see what it's like to learn in this amazing way. So you can become full-time travelers. We also know world schoolers who are part-time travelers. They have a home base, and then as much as they can, they take trips to all interesting parts of the world, and then they come back home to their home base. Yeah,
and then we know others who either do what Skylar's describing, maybe 1 month, 2 months a year. We have others that we know that will do that half of the year. They might spend half of the year at home in a fixed place, and the other half they might travel to different places. So I think the great thing about world schooling is that it's adaptable to every economic as well as lifestyle situation.
But also,
because it's a mindset, you get to choose how much you do that.
And also, I have to clarify, it doesn't have to be abroad. I mean, abroad, of course, is best because you get exposed to different ways of life and people. But if you can't go abroad, we've world schooled in our local area tons. Like wherever we are, like we went back home to Australia for 9 months, and because we'd become world schoolers, we viewed everything differently. We went to, a lot more museums, and we went, we did some educational things, and we just kind of tackled everything of like, can the local fishermen teach us something about how to fish, and can the,
That's one of the cool things about world schooling is you try to get down to that level of the culture of that people, and you try and find people that will then teach you things about how they do it.
And that can be local.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the best.
Within your own country, and then ideally in other countries as well.
I mean, the United States, where we are right now, is so diverse. There are so many elements. We've been all over the US now, and it's amazing at how diverse it is.
There's so many different things to learn from different people, and subtleties in cultural differences. There's so much to learn when you kind of approach life as a world schooler. It's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I had read this blog about this idea of schooling, and it was called world schooling, but then I kind of forgot about that word. And then we were halfway through our Europe trip, and I found this Facebook group called World Schoolers, and I realized, hey, that's what we're doing. And then I've since then been able to tap into, there's lots of groups online that there's actually thousands of people around the world who are world schoolers.
Tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands.
I don't know about hundreds.
Oh, I'm sure there are.
Like maybe, no.
Well, some of those groups that we're part of has 40 or 50,000 members, and there's a few of them. So
it is a growing thing. It's amazing. And I feel like I'll be a world schooler forever.
World schoolers forever. La 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 la
Ba-la-la-la.
So we've met other world schoolers around the world, and it's so wonderful to meet up with other people who view the world in this unique, amazing way.
Yeah.
That the world is there for learning, and there's something to appreciate everywhere.
Yeah, actually, and the cool thing about world schooling is that you tend to actually meet up with those people over and over again, as we have.
Yeah, because you move around a lot.
on many occasions. It's like this great reunion. It's like, oh, we last saw you in Mexico, and now you're in the United States. And
that's if you get to travel a lot.
Yeah. And it's really cool because it's pretty tight-knit. I think world schoolers really
look after each other.
They do. They really look after each other. And we've also had situations where we have meetups with other world schools, and we talk about our experiences, and we share where we've been, and it's just a great resource. I know many times Skylar's sort of had a couple of questions or didn't quite know what to do in certain situations. Straight onto the World Schooling page on Facebook, question.
Well, there's a couple of world school groups. I'll link them below.
And then all of a sudden, hundreds of answers of people that have experienced that thing before, and there they are. We're ready to go. We know what we're going to do. It's been awesome.
So we'll just share with you a couple of experiences we've had world schooling. So
what was your favourite?
I think just really when we were starting out and we went to Europe, and we were like just really trying this thing with our kids. I mean, we never even homeschooled before. We knew nothing. And we were just trying this idea of learning hands-on. And we kind of let go of a lot of our previous held ideas that it was all bookwork. We let go of a lot of bookwork. We do bookwork when we're having downtimes. So when we're still for a while, we have some like maths and English workbooks that we carry around.
Science.
But a lot of learning is kind of in the moment as well. So anyway, when we were in Europe, we as a family were reading The Hiding Place and Diary of Anne Frank, and then we were able to take our kids there. And so, I mean, I read The Hiding Place as a teenager, and I loved it, and it had a big impact on my life. It's an amazing book, but there was just something amazing about taking my children there, and they climbed through the hole in the cupboard in Corrie ten Boom's bedroom in the Netherlands, and it was just like standing there. It was like a dream come true, and my kids were learning about what I loved and had learnt about, but they were learning by like physically engaging with it. It was amazing.
One experience that I remember really well isn't particularly glamorous. It's not, in a foreign country or anything else, but it was after our initial foray overseas, and we returned back to Australia. And as Skylar said, we wanted to continue this mindset and this legacy of learning from the source and being out there doing things. And we took a trip from the very bottom of Australia to the top, where we decided to live for the next 6 months. And on the way there, I decided that let's go and visit these places that I knew about because I was Australian, but had actually never been to.
Like?
One thing was Beechworth in Victoria, Ned Kelly country. He's the bush ranger of Australia.
Yeah.
And we stopped there and we showed the kids. We went on a tour with the
about
kids.
the history, and we like touched the walls with the bullets, and we like engaged with everything really.
And it was just something I'd never done with our kids before. And then we went to our capital city of Canberra, and we stayed there, and we went to the War Memorial there and the Parliament House, and we took a tour of our government building, and we talked about the different parts of government, and we just these things that we'd never thought to do before because our mindset was different. And here we are back in our own country doing these things because our mindsets were different. So that was a highlight for me. And there's so many opportunities to do that wherever you are.
Yeah, we want our kids to learn tolerance and communication, and we want them to be like critical thinkers, and we want them to be resourceful and resilient. And we feel like world schooling is this amazing way to help them develop these skills. Like we're hoping that they will identify as world schoolers and then continue that through their lives. That they see the world as this amazing place that they're lucky enough to learn from, and then appreciate everything around them.
Yeah, and I don't think world schooling is where you say, right, I'm either a world schooler or I go to a traditional school. You can actually be both. You can go to a traditional school and still be a world schooler because of the mindset. It's like, I'm getting this academic education, but I'm still a world schooler because I want to travel and I want to see things and I want to learn things from that way.
And I'm interested in the world. I think above all, I want my kids to be interested. I want them to be curious about what they see and hear and who they talk to, and not just gloss over it.
And not just take whatever they're told for granted. They need to dig deeper and understand that.
That's the hope anyway.
Yes. So far, so good.
Either way, we're enjoying it. We're world schoolers too. So we're learning and we're building upon our foundation of learning. And one last experience I'll bring up is we as a family went to the archaeological site of Teotihuacan in Mexico, and it's one of my favorite days of my life. Like it was just so amazing. We sometimes, like as world schoolers, when you do a lot of travel, there's a lot of sacrificing and struggle.
And can be exhausting.
Yeah, it's not all glamorous.
No.
And then sometimes there's just these days that make everything amazing. And
the gold days.
Yeah. And then for me, that was Teotihuacan. We went to this place that I never, ever thought I would get to go. And, I climbed the Pyramid of the Sun with my 2-year-old who scrambled up it, and I went up behind him, and we all stood on top of the pyramid and reached for the sun. And we did the night tour where we had like the audio, and it was a light show, and we learned all about the history, and it was magic. Like not all of our travel is a disaster. Sometimes
the stars align.
Yeah, we have these experiences that we're just like, this is why we do it.
Yeah.
This is why we are world schoolers, because this experience is just like, it's just added so much richness to our lives.
It's when we look at each other and go, world schooling. Fa la 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 la.
Ba-la-la-la-la.
Yeah, it's awesome. Thanks so much for listening to us today. Hopefully you've enjoyed our stories, and maybe it's piqued your interest a little bit as
hopefully,
to what world schooling is.
Yeah, hopefully we've inspired you a little bit to look into it, to look at what it might be like to view the world from a world schoolers point of view, and what it might be like to get out there and give it a try.
Yep.
When we can.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.
See ya. He learnt this amazing dance technique, world schooling.
Yes, I did.